On a crisp June morning in 1990, passengers at Birmingham Airport shuffled aboard British Airways Flight 5390, a sleek BAC 111 jet bound for the sun-soaked beaches of Malaga, Spain. Little did they know, this ordinary hop across Europe was about to shatter into a nightmare at 17,000 feet, one where the line between life and death hung by the slimmest of threads, and human grit would be tested against the unforgiving forces of the sky. The aircraft, registered as GBJRT and affectionately named County of South Glamorgan, was a veteran of the skies, built in 1971 and operated by seasoned hands. Captain Timothy Lancaster, 42, with over 11,000 flight hours under his belt, including more than 1,000 on this very type of plane, settled into the left seat. Beside him was First Officer Alistair Atchison, 39, equally experienced with 7,500 hours total and 1,100 on the BAC 111. Four flight attendants, Nigel Ogden, Simon Rogers, John Heward, and Susan Gibbons, prepared to tend to the 81 passengers, a mix of holidaymakers eager for their Spanish getaway. The plane taxied out smoothly, and at 8:20 local time, it lifted off without a hitch, climbing steadily into the blue. British Airways Flight 5390, pilots sucked out of cockpit, aero time. As the jet passed through 17,300 feet over the quaint town of Didcot, England, the cabin crew began their routine service of meals and drinks. Captain Lancaster had just unbuckled his seatbelt and shoulder harness to relax a bit, handing control to Atchison. Then, without warning, a deafening bang echoed through the fuselage. The left windscreen panel, the captain's side, exploded outward in a violent rush of air, triggered by the explosive decompression of the cockpit. The force was cataclysmic. Lancaster was yanked headfirst through the gaping hole, his upper torso slamming against the exterior of the plane, battered by winds howling at 345 knots and temperatures plummeting to -17°C. His knees snagged on the flight controls, but the suction was relentless, threatening to pull him into the void. Chaos erupted instantly. The autopilot disengaged, sending the plane into a sharp dive. The flight deck door blasted inward, crumpling onto the console and jamming the throttle levers, which inadvertently pushed the engines to higher power and increased speed. Papers and debris swirled like a tornado in the mist-filled cabin. Flight attendant Nigel Ogden, who had just entered the cockpit with tea, lunged forward in a split-second act of bravery, grabbing Lancaster's belt to anchor him. "I thought he was going to be gone forever," Ogden later recalled, his hands freezing in the sub-zero blast as he held on for dear life. But the pressure was too much. Ogden's grip began to slip, his shoulder dislocating under the strain. Enter the heroes of the hour. Chief Steward John Heward and flight attendant Simon Rogers burst onto the flight deck, smashing the jammed door aside to free the throttles. They took over holding Lancaster's legs, wrapping a seatbelt around Ogden's waist to secure him as a human chain formed. The crew feared that if they let go, Lancaster's body could slam into the wing, engine, or tail, dooming everyone. Meanwhile, in the cabin, Susan Gibbons calmed the terrified passengers, securing loose items and urging them into brace positions as oxygen masks dropped. The plane wasn't fully equipped with oxygen for all, heightening the urgency. Everyone needed to get down to breathable air fast. Alone at the controls amid the roaring wind noise that drowned out communications, First Officer Atchison fought to regain stability. He initiated an emergency descent to 10,000 feet, where oxygen was plentiful, and managed a mayday call to air traffic control, though initial responses were garbled. Charts and checklists had been sucked out, so he flew by instinct, dodging traffic and aiming for the nearest suitable airport, Southampton. As the descent continued, Lancaster's limp body shifted perilously, but the crew held firm, their arms numb from the cold and effort. Would the captain survive the exposure? Could Atchison land this wounded bird solo? The tension built with every passing minute, the plane hurtling earthward at breakneck speed. Miraculously, after 22 agonizing minutes, the BAC 111 touched down safely at Southampton Airport at 08:55. Rescuers pried Lancaster's ankles from the controls and pulled him back inside. Initially thought dead, his eyes glazed, skin blue from frostbite, he stirred. alive against all odds. He suffered fractures to his right arm, left thumb, and right wrist, along with severe bruising and shock. Ogden endured frostbite, a dislocated shoulder, and later, post-traumatic stress disorder. No passengers were injured, a testament to the crew's composure. But what invisible flaw had turned a routine flight into this airborne horror? The Air Accidents Investigation Branch, AAIB, dove into the wreckage, recovering the windscreen panel and 90 bolts near Chelsea, England. Their findings painted a picture of human error rooted in complacency. Just 27 hours before takeoff, on June 8th, a shift maintenance manager at Birmingham had replaced the windscreen without consulting the manual. In dim lighting and without his prescription glasses, he selected bolts from a poorly labeled storeroom. 84 were a 211-8C type, 0.26 inches too narrow in diameter, and 6 were the right diameter but 0.1 inches too short. These mismatched fasteners, chosen by visual guesswork rather than specifications, couldn't withstand the cabin pressure differential at altitude. Evidence mounted. The old bolts were A21LM-7D, already incorrect from a prior undocumented replacement. The manager, overconfident from years of experience, self-certified the work without oversight, as the windscreen wasn't deemed a vital point requiring dual checks. Interviews revealed a facility culture prioritizing schedules over protocols, where shortcuts were normalized and quality assurance failed to catch deviations. The BAC 111's external windscreen design exacerbated the risk, allowing pressure to push it outward if not perfectly secured. No wild conspiracies or alternative theories emerged from the probe or subsequent discussions. The incident was squarely attributed to maintenance lapses, with no evidence of sabotage, manufacturing defects, or other foul play. Instead, it sparked reforms. Mandatory prescription glasses for maintenance tasks, expanded verification for critical components, and periodic retraining for engineers to curb bad habits. British Airways overhauled its quality systems, banning self-certification by managers. In the years that followed, the survivors' stories became legend. Lancaster recovered in under 5 months, returning to British Airways before joining EasyJet and retiring in 2008. Acheson, hailed for his airmanship with the Queen's Commendation and a Polaris Award, flew until 2015. Ogden, Gibbons, and others received honors too, though Ogden retired in 2001 due to health issues. Flight 5390 stands as a riveting reminder that in aviation, the smallest oversight can unleash chaos, but sheer willpower can snatch victory from disaster's jaws.